Okay then, hello and welcome back to this next episode. Today we shall be fighting through the Dungeon Defenders crossover, Ethereal Army. Ethereal Army? That doesn't sound quite right. Eternia. No, Eternia. Etheria. Yeah, no, Etheria. Anyway, we'll take the Etheria Crystal. And I think that's all that we really need. We've got our weapons. And we've got the staff that we shall be using to fight the invasion. So I've got the Aura Rod, which does area of effect damage. It's currently my favorite staff from the event. I used to be a fan of the Ballista for a while, and I still generally do get the Ballista at some point, but the Lightning Aura Rod, especially with the cheese that I would use in 1.3, it's just a fair bit more useful. And speaking of that cheese, I will take the things that I need to conduct it straight away. Hang on. For that I need to go visit the mechanic. The mechanic who is still in the dungeon because we haven't yet built a home for her. So that's going to be another thing that we need to get around to doing today. Okay then, so what we need from the mechanic for this cheese is some actuators. I'll grab a few. Can't remember exactly how many I need, but I'll use them all at some point, I'm sure. And some wire. I do have some wire somewhere. But yes, so actually we'll probably need a bit over 100 wire for this. And some sort of switch or lever. Okay, then I think that's all. Actually, if I buy one of these each, then later this episode I can craft the grand plan. Okay, I think that's all I need from her for now. And we'll just craft the multicolour wrench to save a slot in the inventory. And head over to the arena that I prepared a few episodes ago. Okay then, here we go. So we'll do the fight once without the cheese first. What have we got? 7 minutes on that? Yeah, that'll be fine. So get a couple of those up, and we shall need this once the event starts. So my usual strategy is to have a lightning aura rod near one of the portals so that I can focus on the other one. And then just keeps changing sides until something happens. Hang on, it's a little bit loud. I'm going to quickly turn down the sound a bit. That's a little bit better. Okay, and then when the wave's complete, clean up and grab as much of the mana as I can. And then set up more lightning aura rods. And then with this sort of setup, that generally leaves me with not much to do during the waves, except for when you get to the later waves, of course, the flying enemies do cause a little bit of trouble. And now there's a little bit more to do, because we've also got the wyverns to contend with. Of course, the final wave is generally not quite so peaceful, because you also have, well, not only do you have to keep away the flying enemies, the wyverns, you also need to defeat the ogre. So just stay in the middle and watch out for wyverns until we see on the minimap the boss icon or the boss health bar. That actually helps. Come on. Actually, I need to take care of these. Some of them are getting through without whoops. Oh no, it's the Dark Mage for this tier of the event. And of course that is the biggest trap you can fall into, not being able to keep control of the flying enemies, which means that you don't have enough time to deal with the other, well, with the boss. So yeah, I've fought it a couple of times now, and always just not quite getting that last little bit. But if I get a average speed tower, slow but high damage. If I get a ballista rod and add that to the setup, let's head over there and oops, quickly grab that. So once you've got about 3 lightning auras on each side, swapping over to the ballista will create another tower that can focus on the wyverns rather than the lightning aura, which is not very effective against the wyverns at all. So yes, 3 of the lightning auras on each side is pretty much enough to stop just about every of the enemy that walks along the ground. But having the ballista firing just helps get rid of those additional flying enemies, which will be particularly helpful in this next wave. As I will be ducking off at some point to go fight the Dark Mage, but it also means that I don't need to be quite so hasty to kill the Dark Mage, because I've got these providing a bit of extra protection against the wyverns. I can take a little bit of time to hang back a little bit, not tank quite so much, and just try and kill the Dark Mage at some point. Oops. Like such. Oops. Oh, mind you, there's still an awful lot of wyverns. And it's not going to be quick enough. So, in order to cheese the Old One's army, at least in 1.3.5, if you place some actuators along on this platform, and just a small section, it needs to be, and then putting down some wiring over the top of them. Oops. Doesn't need to be perfect. We can always collect the leftover wiring at some point. And then so you've got it at both ends. And then so you just need a switch somewhere. I like to place it nice and central. With a wire that's up. And then if you flick the switch, let's try and get them both on screen. There we go. So if you flick the switch, you actuate these blocks that you've put the actuators on. So when the army comes along, they will fall down the hole and end up underneath this platform. You do need to start off with the blocks solid though, otherwise the event won't start. So yes, let's see if that still works. Start the event, trigger the actuators, and we can turn off the visibility now. Oops. There we go, normal. And yeah, so they fall down, they turn ethereal, so they're just glowing and purple. Whoops. Now, that is something that I hadn't considered possibility. Okay. So it appears that the cheese patch has been to just make them float up when they get to the crystal. In previous versions, instead of floating up, they would just gather about underneath it. Let me just experiment with deepening out this area a little. Okay, let's see how it works this time. I will actually put down one of those. And okay, I've let through a few. I'm actually going to send the rest up over the top now. Just in case, yeah. The other way, we're not getting too many just suddenly come up here. Although it does leave me in the position that I now only have half life on the Eternia crystal with which to work. So I probably won't win this attempt either. That's okay. We can just jump ahead. It's a bit sad that my favourite exploit from 1.3 has been patched, but I can live with it. And there we go. I did manage to hold off just long enough in order to defeat the Dark Mage. Which means that we have defeated the Old One's army from pre-hard mode. And that pretty much puts us on track for just the Wall of Flesh now, before we enter into hard mode. Before we get to that, however, there is one more village to construct in pre-hard mode. So this one will be for the Cavern Pylon, but it will be near the Jungle Temple. That way we can easily get to the Jungle Temple instead of taking the current route, which is quite a fair way. This is the closest pylon, quite a fair way between the two, and it's through the jungle, which is a decently dangerous place to traverse. Last time I did a time lapse, I did it using multiplayer and a second account, invisible, in order to record. As I mentioned then, it was a bit of a hassle, and it's going to be even more of a hassle in the jungle, where there's plenty of enemies about. So I think instead I will try a different method, and we'll see how that turns out. If it's successful, you'll probably be watching it right now, and if not, I'll just cut straight to the finished village. But I think it turned out pretty well. What do you think? We've got 3 people living here, and of course one of the benefits of that is that it qualifies as a town in game, so there's significantly less spawns here now. You do still get the occasional man-eater or jungle slime, but all in all pretty peaceful, and it's nice and close to the jungle temple down here. And here we have the cave pylon. I've also moved in the witch doctor, ready for, as soon as we enter into hard mode, we can pick up a pair of wings. All that to come next episode. And yes, I do think that this will be where we end it today. There is more that could be done, but we can do that next episode instead and transition into hard mode. So I will leave it here then. See you next time.